Hello everyone, here's another video on the channel. For those who aren't subscribed yet, please subscribe, leave a like if you enjoy the content, and feel free to comment below. Today we're going to talk about a serious topic. We're going to discuss the irrecoverability of women who use Instagram. In other words, pretty much all modern women. First of all, I always make it clear here that I don't make videos to judge anyone's morality. In case someone just stumbled upon this video for the first time, I always repeat this in my videos. For those who are already subscribed and follow the channel, you have to put up with me always saying this. I don't make moral judgments, because not only YouTube, but the whole internet is full of people with bad intentions who love to take what you say out of context. They try to twist your words, give them a double meaning, or create a false dichotomy about what you're actually saying, and so on. So here, we analyze things based on the stimuli and rewards present in the environment. And this irrecoverability of women on Instagram is actually something quite neurophysiological, you could say, because it has an effect on the brain's reward center, right? It's very similar to the effect that pornography has had on men. I'll leave a link here in a pinned comment to a study by Gary Wilson. It's a TED Talk by him, where he explains how pornography affected men's brains and desensitized many men in the real world. Back in the 2000s, when high-speed internet took over the Western world, a lot of men had trouble reconnecting with the real world. They had issues with premature ejaculation, with erection problems, with erectile dysfunction, and so on. Because of this issue, this excess of pleasure in such a short period, which the human brain just can't handle. And Instagram, when it comes to women, is the perfect tool for this to happen. Why do I say it's irreversible? Biologically, in terms of the brain is perfectly capable of regenerating. The human brain has a neuroplasticity that makes it possible to reverse almost any kind of addiction. Obviously, there are exceptions in extreme cases where people have been damaged, to such an extent, for example, as with crack use and so on. But in general, almost all addictions, from sugar to lighter drugs, alcohol, nicotine, even pornography, and even Instagram, could be cured. But why don't I see any optimistic scenario where women will free themselves from this great human sugar, which is Instagram? For men, the issue of pornography, it's no longer a taboo to say that it's something harmful. Masturbation is also something that many men already recognize as problematic. So even though many still keep doing it and all that, I don't judge anyone. I always say here on my channel, do whatever you want, but don't stray from the truth, or from what comes closest to the truth, even if it's not an absolute truth yet. Observe people, the signs, society around you, and your own body. Your instinct is what you're always feeling in your environment. So when it comes to pornography, men ended up, there are various forums, and many doctors have warned about this. Father Paulo Ricardo has also spoken about it, from a Christian perspective. He also does exceptional work on this, mixing in religious concepts. They are very well grounded in biology, and behind all this there's neuroscience as well. Anyway, there are a lot of men out there talking to each other, trying to break free from this. But when it comes to Instagram, for example, that doesn't exist. There are all kinds of forums in Brazil and other countries, with tips, ebooks, even some courses. There's everything out there to help men recover from this major addiction, which was high-speed internet pornography. But with women, you don't see that happening. There aren't women's forums, for example, teaching how to stop using Instagram. Women getting together and saying, hey, this is bad for us. On the contrary, right? The life of the modern woman revolves around Instagram. The conversations they have with each other when they're drinking wine together and so on, when they go out together, they'll talk about other things too, obviously, like TV shows, work, whatever. They'll talk about a few things too. Everyday stuff. I'm not making a big deal out of small behaviors. I'm just pointing out the consequences of major behaviors that are overly stimulated. So you'll have women talking to each other a lot, among themselves. Like, did you see that so-and-so is in such and such place traveling somewhere? Or that one guy did this, or so-and-so broke up with whoever. This kind of everyday gossip about people from the city and the region has always happened. Also, it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's just that with Instagram, it's a little different because you get a level of intimacy into people's lives that's totally unprecedented in human history. That's it. So women are already being bombarded with likes, ads, partnerships, perfect lives, and with reels, stories, filters, and all the other tools that shape the personality of the modern woman, this really overstimulates her brain to the point where she doesn't find any joy anymore in the simple things in life, even though she'll keep saying that what really matters are the little moments and the simplicity of life. I've already made a video talking about this. You can check it out on my channel. Later, there's a pink background. It's the video where I talk about the fake simplicity on Instagram. It's really easy to find on my channel. So, like, it's actually kind of sad to even talk about this. It's a pretty black pill kind of video, Melissa, because honestly, I don't see any scenario where things get better. There's no movement like that. There are movements for men to quit porn, but nothing for women to quit Instagram. On the contrary, it's only going to get worse and worse, okay? More average women thinking they're goddesses, more goddess level women thinking they're beautiful women thinking they're intergalactic beings, right? And that just doesn't add up. So, like, the number of single women isn't just a matter of opinion or some projection anymore, right? Even though there are a lot of simps in Brazil, the simps here are low value, really low value. And I'm not just talking financially, but also in terms of physical attractiveness. So women aren't going to go for these guys. It's like telling a porn addict to get excited just by looking at a girl in a bikini. He's not going to find it interesting at all. That's just how it is, because his brain is already seeing things way beyond that, way more intense, way more hardcore. It's the same thing with women. She's seeing a couple from her city where the guy has money, the girl scored a social climber, and now they're vacationing in the Maldives. She's not going to find it fun anymore to just stay at a little inn in your area with you, right? Anyway, and if she does travel with you, if you have a girlfriend, right? I'm talking specifically now to those who have a girlfriend. There's so many guys who come and comment, on my channel. They email me too, talking about the hell that the relationship turned into this because the woman keeps seeing these perfect lives and wants to copy them. And sometimes the guy doesn't have the money, or sometimes he even does have the money to pay for it, but he just doesn't have the patience. The guy is ending the relationship because of this, because he can't take it anymore. So, all of this isn't about hidden desires, wishes, or dormant fantasies inside the woman. It's all just pure influence. She's being completely influenced by what she's seen on Instagram. And obviously, a woman will never admit that she's being influenced. Now, I've said this here a million times already. So, there's no way, I don't see any scenario where you can get something back because it's not a matter of character. It's not a matter of psychology. It's not a matter of choice. It's not just about the environment, even though the environment obviously plays a big role. It's a neurophysiological issue. It's in the brain. A woman's dopamine receptors, dopamine is the pleasure hormone, as everyone knows, but in case someone doesn't, there's the info, are completely damaged. If you do a scan, for example, of the brain of someone addicted to sugar or pornography or cocaine or any other substance, and compare it to a normal person's brain, you'll see several areas where there's more activity. This is very well documented in neuroscience. The thing with Instagram is the same. It works like any other addiction. But for women, it affects them in a way that's irreversible. Because even if, for example, if there were a big reset, if Instagram disappeared from the face of the earth, if smartphones vanished and life went back to how it was in, say, 2007, in about 90 to 120 days, everyone would be pretty much cured. People would go back to being normal. You'd have relationships, a lot more healthy relationships. I'm not saying 2007 was perfect. I'm saying it was a lot less bad than it is today. Modernity always works in damage control mode. There's no such thing as good or bad. There's just bad and less bad. So it was a lot less bad. In 2007, for example, when the world was more analog, the internet was limited to the home computer, and people went out to socialize. It was more natural, even though things like hypergamy existed too, and so on. But it was something much more manageable. So the brain has this ability to regenerate. If there was some utopia where Instagram and smartphones just disappeared, in 90 or 120 A's, no one would even remember they existed. It's the same thing that happens with people who quit smoking or stop eating sugar. You can drink coffee without sugar, you just forget about it. You end up forgetting the ageche. The human body is really amazing when it comes to neuroplasticity and regeneration. But there isn't a women's movement out there raising awareness about this. I do know women who talk to each other about it, who tell others, but like I said, it's not even 5%. Some of them even have Instagram but don't know how to use it, you know? They know it's a big scam and all that, and they warn others, but it's a really small number. You don't have that, right? There are a lot of women out there making a movement against this, trying to get people back to normal. Because, yes, they're destroying themselves over this obsession with legs and thinking they have way more market value than they actually do. They really aren't like that in real life. It's all because of filters and guys who keep boosting their egos. But that's not going to happen. Obviously not, you know? If you take away that big human sugar rush from them, well, that's just out of the question. So yeah, the situation is honestly pretty grim, okay? There's no going back. It's really beyond repair. Even though in theory it could be fixed, it's easier. I don't know. I think it's more likely for a meteor to hit Earth next month than for that to happen. Anyway, just imagine impossible things. It's more likely for those to happen than for women, as a group, to get together and say, hey, let's stop this because it's gone bad and messed up our minds. That's not going to happen. So, for those who want to be conservative, who are hoping to find an exception like a Mary and all that, the news is really bad, okay? A girl doesn't need to have 300,000 followers to be influenced by Instagram. Any girl out there with 1,000, 1,500 followers following a few pages already understands the power of this tool and gets a bunch of DMs. She doesn't even have to be that pretty. Even the average girl in Brazil has an endless menu of men chasing after her. In many cases, even unattractive women do. With just being average, she's already going to have a bunch of guys after her. And the average man in Brazil, he's completely invisible. Yeah, women aren't going to give that up just to have a relationship with a guy on their same level and build a life together because they feel disgusted by these average, nice, ordinary, hardworking guys. Of course, they're not going to say that out loud because they're afraid of being judged or labeled, but in reality, they are disgusted by these guys. Honestly, women of all looks are competing for just 1 to 3% of men. So obviously, the math just doesn't add up, right? That 1% to 3% couldn't care less about dating or anything serious. These guys are just taking advantage of the fact that because they're the ones benefiting from this extreme hypergamy, right? They use and discard women however they want. Even guys in the intermediate range, like the top 10 or 15%, are already acting this way. That's also happening because there's a general awakening going on. Unfortunately, the vast majority in Brazil, about 80 to 85% of men, are still total simps, you know? But even at the base level, a lot of guys are waking up. Really, a lot of them. The process is slower and all that, but don't think things are gonna get better because they're not, okay? They're not because there's no movement, no sign, not even a glimmer of hope that things will change. Maybe, I don't know, the kids today from 2010, 2015 who are babies, little kids, maybe they'll see the mistakes made by women from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, which includes 2000 as well. So that's already gone down the drain too, even though they're still young. The TikTok generation too, zero chance of turning things around. In 20 years, 30 years, there might be hope, but I honestly doubt it. I'm pretty nihilistic about this 21st century, you know, even though at the same time, I'm kinda a little bit. Ron Capel too. I don't even care about this stuff anymore, at least in some cases. So I just laugh at the whole social mess, you know? There's nothing you can do about it. You get me? I don't want to save society or any civilization really. I just think it's better for you to just accept things as they are. Some people, white knights, are going to call you a coward or whatever. So good luck to anyone who wants to save Western civilization because I don't. I just don't see. I do value the great achievements of the West. I really like Greek philosophy, some of the great Catholic theologians and all that. Anyway, I value the West a lot. I love Western culture. But this endless degeneration, I just don't see any way to save it. Ready? I'm pretty much on the same page as Dom Sandro, Davi from Okea Vida, even Miguel too, who has some black pill vibes, Coruja do Carvalho, and so on. I'm more negative in that sense, but negative in social terms. Because individually speaking, if you're someone in Brazil today who has an average income or maybe just a little above average, you're not a millionaire or anything, but you're working out, getting in shape, lowering your body fat percentage, reading books, there's no way your life can be bad. Of course, it's not going to be a perfect dream life. Maybe you can dream about scoring a goal. It'd be nice with your family and all that, but if you're working on yourself, you won't be part of this lost generation. On Instagram, so the life of a man who's working on himself in his 20s or 30s, it's really not likely to be bad, you know? There are a lot of guys out there complaining when they've got it pretty good, while others are out there paying child support, getting involved with single moms, and getting screwed over, jumping into relationships. There are guys who can't even sleep, spending their whole paycheck on their girlfriends, so don't complain too much. Seriously, things could be way worse. That's for the simps out there, okay? Because when I say Sims, I'm talking about guys who are really slaves to it. All emotional, everyone wanting to date, that's how these guys are. Totally caught up in it. Red pill or black pill. Some people do have relationships, but they're a total exception, you know? If you're gonna be an exception, try to be that exception. Make money, work on your body, get smarter. Don't waste your time trying to be the exception in relationships. Because if you get frustrated trying to make money, get in shape, or get smarter, at least that's just with yourself. But when you bring someone else into your life and try to make that the exception, that's when things really go south. For sure, okay? It's tough. So don't fool yourselves about this. And this whole issue of recoverability, just to wrap up the video, is actually a neurophysiological thing, okay? So women's pleasure receptors are totally damaged, and only a major reboot, a total reset, could bring things back to normal. But that's just wishful thinking, right? Even when it comes to pornography, men do collective reboots, talk about it, have forums, and so on. But for women, there isn't any movement like that. On the contrary, there's actually a movement pushing for this to keep going strong on social media, posting their perfect little lives on Instagram and thinking they're going to have a dream life. And they're going to marry someone like DJ Alok or Caio Castro. So, yeah, the situation is pretty grim. And don't take on other people's problems, okay? Take care of your own life. A big hug to everyone.